You ready, buddy? It's a special time again. You'll get to help me film. You want to help me film or do you want to leave? In or out? In or out, Goober? In? Okay. Then let's film. Hello everybody, my name is Joshua. And his name is Havoc. And we would like to welcome you back to another episode of Coffee, Cats, and King, where we will discuss books, both new and old, share with you pictures of my cats. It will make you wish they were your cats, and I'll drink enough coffee for me and everybody watching. My mug today is my Humans Are the Problem. This is from Weird Little Worlds, a little publishing company that hasn't done much yet, but what they are doing is a lot of fun, so check them out if you're interested in that. My shirt is my Misery t-shirt, compliments of my lovely mother. Yeah, today because today is the Stephen King tag. Now, how this thing has existed for so long, and I, over at Coffee, Cats, and King, have not done it, I can't say, but I'm doing it now, and of course I have my very special helper. What do you think, buddy? Oh, don't be bashful. Don't be bashful. Any other time you love the camera. Isn't that right? So as I was saying, today is the Stephen King tag. Sounds like one that is designed for me and people like me, so very excited about it. There's 15 actual questions, and at the end I'm supposed to tag people. So let's go on and jump into it. Number 1, name your favorite Stephen King book. It's a little bit of a toss-up between two. The first being Misery, obviously. This book is it's such a personal book to Stephen King, really. It is this incredible portrayal of the pain and the fear that he went through after he was hit by that car, and to think that everything in this book that the character that Sheldon is feeling is what King was going through at the time. As a constant reader, that kind of just breaks my heart a little, you know. And so reading this book with that in mind brings it to a much more horrific level than it already is, and that's saying something because it's freaking Misery. And I don't know, like I said, this is one that stuck with me. This is one that probably affected me the most. And so for that, I'd say Misery. The other book being From a Buick 8. This one is very personal to me. Basically, I spent a lot of time growing up with my great-grandfather and great-grandmother. I spent a lot of childhood years with them. And for the majority of it, my grandfather was suffering from Alzheimer's. And I remember one year in particular where they got everyone together in the family, you know, and had this party for me. And they bought me From a Buick 8. And he signed it, and that was a big thing for me because you know, this was a man that at that point he couldn't remember anyone's name, couldn't remember who I was a lot of times, so it was a big deal, and it stuck with me. That birthday stuck with me, and this book stuck with me, and a lot of people don't like this one, but I think it is well worth a read. I very much enjoy this one. There are no answers given, but there don't have to be. This is almost a mixture of a lot of Stephen King ideas all in one, but I think it's a very solid story. I love going back to this one, not just for those memories from childhood, but because it is genuinely one of the most enjoyable Stephen King books for me. Now, number 2, and Havoc is already bored, so he has climbed up to the top there. What do you say, buddy? I'd like to point out that this top shelf, these are my signed books. So if he thinks he's going to go up there and chew on something, he is wrong. I can't see you, but the camera can. Be good for the camera. Come on, buddy. Come on down. This could be a long video if I do it this way, isn't it? Alright. Number 2. Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Name a book that gave you nightmares or kept you up late. Alright. I almost used another Stephen King book for this because that book has my favorite ending, but that one will be making a return later in this video regardless. And I wanted to talk about some books this time that maybe some of you folks haven't heard about. So in this case I picked Bad Glass by Richard Gropp, and I'll take a minute to let you enjoy this super disturbing cover here. And this is one, it's not perfect, there are some issues, but the imagery on the cover was enough to sell me on this one, and that imagery plays a part because this is a book about a town that is essentially abandoned all of a sudden by everyone and everything, and it's completely roped off. No one is allowed there, but these images and videos are still being circulated around the internet. These things that don't make sense, people who are melded into walls and can't say. People who are melded into walls, and people who have formed into these weird balls of matter, but they're still alive. And so very disturbing images and videos. And this particular photographer decides that this is the big break he needs. He ends up sneaking into this quarantined place, and what he finds there is utterly horrific. So, like I said, there are some issues in this. In this particular book, but the imagery really stuck with me, and it just it was very solid, very effective. I gave this one 5 stars at the time. It's been a couple years since I've read it, but it's one that I don't see people talk about, I don't see people read, and I think that's a shame because Richard Gropp did some seriously horrific things in this book. Isn't that right, buddy? And now you're sitting on my questions. Can I have the questions back? I would appreciate that. Number 3, Joyland, a book that made you happy. Now this is one that I have talked about before. This was actually in my very first YouTube video, which was the best of 2020. And I talked about Lee Perry's A Skeleton in the Closet. This book makes me tremendously happy. This is a cozy murder mystery, but it's about this family who have a literal skeleton in the closet. His name is Sid. He is hilarious. They don't know where he came from, but he is animated and funny. He replaces any cursing he would normally do with body parts or bones. So you hear a lot of him saying coccyx and things like that. And he's just a blast. He is a hilarious character. And all the characters in the book are great. Stars a female protagonist. And it's just them and their hijinks, and it's so much fun. Like I said, I've read this one, I've read the second one, The Skeleton Takes a Bow. I would love to get the entire series. If you need a break and you need something that's just lighthearted, good humor, and still a very entertaining read, a good mystery, then try A Skeleton in the Closet by Lee Perry. Are you ready to leave, buddy? Are you leaving us? Oh. Chaos, are you joining us? You want to come in here with us? No? Okay. Thank you for your help. Alright, things should move a little bit faster since our special guest has left, so let's keep going. Number 4, Misery, a book that made you sad. For this, I'm going to talk about an excellent book, but a sad one. That is Craig Davidson with Saturday Night Ghost Club. It's a very well done novel. This is about a group of kids who are trying to solve mysteries a la Scooby-Doo style, based upon these stories of his uncle. And the ending is what brought me around to it, the big reveal, the big twist. It made me very sad for personal reasons, but it is a beautiful novel, very well written, very entertaining, and just solid 5 stars all around. Great read if you haven't read it. But I don't want to spoil anything in regards to why. It's just, it's not the happiest of endings, is what we'll say. Number 5, Cujo, name your favorite animal companion. This was a tough one. So few authors make those animal companions a necessary component of the story, really, you know. You see it more often in fantasy, I think. But in this case, I decided to go with Nails the Bull Terrier from Jonathan Carroll's Land of Laughs. And Nails is a very integral part of this story, as evidenced by the fact that his lovely, silly face is on the cover. I have a great love of bull terriers. I think they're wonderful and adorable and ridiculous, and I love everything about them. I desperately want one in the future. But Nails, in this case, Nails is great. Nails causes all sorts of mischief and trouble for the main character in this book, and that is before we walk into a scene and hear him speaking English and realize that maybe there's more to Nails the Bull Terrier than we originally realized. And from then on, Nails is very much an integral part of the story. And again, he gets points for being a bull terrier, kind of. Yeah, great book. Read it. All right, number 6, Dr. Sleep, a book that bored you to death or made you fall asleep. I have picked 2 here. The first being Monster 1959 by David Main. Now, it has a killer cover. I love the cover, and of course I picked it up as soon as I saw it because of that cover. It's been a few years since I've read this. I'll be honest, I don't really remember the book. And I feel like with that cover I should. This is going based off of my old Goodreads review, where I believe I said almost verbatim that this book bored me to tears. The next one, though, is Humpty's Bones by Simon Clarke. And this is a book that was on my to-buy list for years. I really wanted to read it. I finally got it, finally purchased it on Kindle. And man, it was such a bore. The reveal on what the monster is stupid. It feels very disjointed, and it just, man, it bored me so much. It was such a letdown, and it was so much worse because I'd waited this very lengthy amount of time before picking it up, so it's a waste of time. And so is Monster 1959 by David Main. Number 7, Eyes of the Dragon, favorite book series with dragons in it. So this is a series I don't hear talked about often. This is Jim Hines with Jig, the Goblin series, the first being Goblin Quest. And this is exactly what it sounds like. This is a book series about a main protagonist who is a tiny, lowly little goblin, often thought of as the weakest of fantasy creatures, one of the dumbest fantasy creatures. Well, Jig is not. Jig is much more intelligent. Jig wants basically just to be left alone because he's a scaredy cat, but unfortunately for him, he is destined for adventure. He is destined for a big, all-encompassing, world-changing quest, whether he likes it or not. And yes, dragons will be involved. And then the second series that I want to talk about is another quick one. It's just a trilogy. This is the Troll King trilogy. All 3 books here. Dragons. This is the Troll King trilogy by John Vornholt. And I remember reading these back in probably 5th or 6th grade. Loved them, and eventually finally picked them up as an adult. Found that they were just as enjoyable as I remembered. Yes, there are dragons involved, and yes, again, we have another strange main protagonist, this time a troll. In addition to a couple other creatures, fantasy creatures that will come along to help him. But again, just a blast. Very enjoyable series, very quick to pick up and read, original, fun, and dragons. Alright, question 8, 4 Past Midnight, a book you stayed up way too late trying to finish. To anyone who has read this book, it will come as no surprise, because this is not a book that you can just set down once you start. That is House of Leaves by Mark Danielowski. I don't think that I need to offer any sort of explanation here for people who know anything about this book. I've said it before, I will say it again. This is barely a book. This is an experience more than anything. If you have not read it, I'm not even going to say go pick up a copy and read it, because this is not a book that's going to be for everyone. Again, this is such a different reading experience that there's really nothing else like it. And I spent way too much time poring over this book in singular settings. It's not a book that you're going to fly through. It's a book that you're going to have to study to really try and fail to understand what all is going on. Number 9, End of Watch, favorite last book in a series. I have a tough time with series a lot of times. They just don't work out for me. I've started a lot of series that I thought were going to be great, even trilogies that I thought were going to be great, and then the last one bombs. It's happened multiple times. It happened multiple times last year. It's already happened this year. One series that did not let me down, though, was Joe Chionakis with his Rabbit in Red trilogy. And so specifically we're talking about Bury the Rabbit, which is the 3rd book. I have talked about this series before. It is excellent for horror lovers because it is all about horror trivia, and it is jam-packed with Easter eggs for those who love the genre. You will not stop picking up little cues, and it's so much fun. As a young adult series, it works very well, and as an adult series, it works very well. It's just a love letter to horror fans all over the world, and I highly suggest it to everyone. From book 1 to book 3, Joe Chionakis does not let you down. Number 10, The Outsider. Name your most unpopular opinion that makes you feel like an outsider. So I'm going to start with a little joke here, in that apparently I have been ostracized from the Goosebumps loving community for saying that How to Learn to Fly is a crappy book. And like I said, it's a little bit of a joke. We had a bit of discussion back and forth. I had to throw that in there for for you, Monster Blood. But in honesty, I do have an opinion that I think is rather unpopular for most people. And no, I'm not bringing up Dean Koontz here because there are plenty of other people who don't like that guy. Plenty of other people don't like Ramsey Campbell. In this case, I'm talking about a guy that everyone seems to talk about lately, and I just don't like his stuff. And that is Stephen Graham Jones. I've given him a try a couple times. The first experience, I think, was when I read his collection After the People Lights Go Off. I think that's the title. It's been a few years. I started My Heart is a Chainsaw, and then I started one more from him, and I started Mongrels, I think it was. Something to that effect. And I just don't like his writing. I don't like his writing style. I don't know. I can't get into it. It just doesn't work for me at all. I finished Mongrels and I finished After the People Lights Go Off. I didn't get very far into My Heart is a Chainsaw. I gave up on that. I ended up sending it back to get my money back. I know people have this thing about Stephen Graham Jones right now, but I just can't get into his writing. If I'm reading a collection that has one of his stories, I've gotten into the habit of skipping that story because I've tried to read even just a singular story, and I just haven't found anything from the guy that I like. So he is now, for me, gone into that category with Ramsey Campbell and with Dean Koontz, where I just don't even bother trying to read their stuff anymore because they have consistently let me down. Number 11, Rage, a book you rage quit or DNF. This was another one that you guys saw early on my channel. This is Jack O'Connell's The Resurrectionist. And I don't even actually know why I still have this book here, because I'm never going to read it. I'm never going to gift it to anybody. I don't want anyone reading this book. It's crap. If you want to see how much I dislike this book, you can go check out the old video, or you can look at the review that I left on Goodreads. I'm not going to go into another rant here. I've done plenty of ranting recently, and I have another rant coming up sometime probably next week. But basically, that book is awful. No one should read it. Yeah, that's it. I definitely rage quit it. Number 12, Different Seasons, your favorite seasonal book. This one, again, should come as no surprise to anybody. It's a two-parter, October Dreams and October Dreams 2. Shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. I love Halloween. I love all things Halloween. These books just embody the season for me. I love everything about them. I read them every year, again and again, and they will never leave my bookshelves. Number 13, Finders Keepers. Name your most prized, rare, or expensive book. This is an easy one for me. This right here, Revival from Stephen King. Of course, protected in a Mylar covering. And this is most certainly not a reading copy for me because it has been signed by the man himself. So this book only comes off the shelf to be dusted and taken care of. I have a reading copy separately. My sibling got that for me, to which I am so very thankful because I've never been able to justify trying to buy a side Stephen King. They're just immensely expensive, but they did that, and I am so very thankful. Number 14, Later, a book you keep putting off. Again, I feel like this one should be fairly self-explanatory. This is a series that I bought all three a while back, and well, this is Kate Elliott's Crown of Stars series, starting with King's Dragon. And the reason that I have not read this book yet is because this is the trilogy. Over 600 pages, over 700 pages, over 800 pages. So I just haven't had the time to devote to this series. Maybe once I get into it, it'll fly by and I'll be like, hey, why did it take me so long to read this series? But in the meantime, I feel like I haven't been able to devote that much time to that. So one of these days I'll get to it. Probably, maybe, I don't know. Number 15, Desperation, a new release you're desperate to get your hands on. Okay, so this book is either coming out in the next few days or it just came out a few days ago, something to that effect. I'm trying not to think too much about it because I desperately want it and I can't have it because I'm currently on a smaller book ban, so I have another 25 books to read before I can buy any. But this is Shadow Glass by Jack Winning. And while I get a sip of coffee, I'm going to give you a second to appreciate this super cool cover. This book sounds like a love letter to Jem Henson and to Dark Crystal, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. I'm going to read the synopsis for you folks. It says, Jack Corman is failing at life. Jobless, jaded, and on the wrong side of 30, he's facing the threat of eviction from his London flat while reeling from the sudden death of his father, one-time film director Bob Corman. Back in the 80s, Bob poured his heart and soul into the creation of his 1986 puppet fantasy, The Shadow Glass, a film Jack loved as a child, idolizing its fox-like hero Dune. But The Shadow Glass flopped on release, deemed too scary for kids and too weird for adults, and Bob became a laughingstock, losing himself to booze and self-pity. Now the film represents everything Jack hated about his father, and he lives with the fear that he'll end up a failure just like him. In the wake of Bob's death, Jack returns to his decaying home, a place creaking with movie memorabilia and painful memories. Then, during a freak thunderstorm, the puppets in the attic start talking. Tipped into a desperate real-world quest to save London from the more nefarious of his father's creations, Jack teams up with excitable fanboy Toby and spiky studio executive Amelia to navigate the labyrinth of his father's legacy while conjuring the hero within and igniting a shadow glass resurgence that could finally do his father proud. So, like I said, definitely sounds like a Jem Henson inspired story here. I love the cover, I love the concept, and when I finish these next 25 books, I will definitely be buying this book. And number 16 on here is to tag your fellow constant readers. I feel like a lot of people have probably already done this tag, and it almost gives undue pressure on some people, so I'm not going to tag anyone here. If you haven't done it and you are a Stephen King fan, please do it. Even if you're not, as you can see, these prompts don't necessarily have to do with Stephen King. I very much enjoy this tag. Had a blast with it. I think I was able to show a couple books here that maybe you guys haven't heard of, and that have reminded me of books that I've read in the past. I'm like, oh yeah, that was super creepy and I loved it. I should get a copy again, you know? I hope you guys enjoyed our special guest for a while and all of his antics. And that'll do it for today. I'll be back again soon with a few book reviews, and I don't know. Still trying to decide on whether I want to do a story narration. I know I want to, but I've been having some issues with my throat, and so if I talk too much, then bad stuff starts happening, and I don't want that. So I don't know. We'll see. But that's all. I'm gonna wrap it up here. This is definitely long enough. Stay safe, guys. Answer some of these below if you'd like, or ask me new questions, or, you know, whatever. Let's just chat like we always do. Thank you. Drink great coffee. Have an awesome week. Cheers.